It's a me, Dracula 3D. The legend
It's
rises. Welcome to I Hope
me,
You Suffer.
Dracula.
The legend rises in glorious, terrible TV style movie. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
What a bad film.
It's
That reminds me, I need to review it on Letterboxd. 1 star.
solid,
And that whole star is because of a mantis.
solid 6 stars.
Mantis toboggan.
All right,
Uh-oh.
okay. I gotta do this intro to yell at Katie for a little bit.
Oh.
This is this is episode 226 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
I'm Katie.
2.5 stars, Katie.
What the fuck?
I knew.
Have you lost
I
your
was
mind?
I think I might. Yes.
This is
I think maybe yes.
Irresponsible to give this anything over 1.5 stars.
Even that extra half star for 1.5 is pushing it.
Well,
The 1.5 stars for the wolf transformation.
292 people agree with me.
Yeah,
So-
1,000 agree with me and Kit.
Wow.
Well, you got to be one of the 11 people or 33 people to give it 5 stars.
No, I don't think. I think my 2.5 stars was fair for my experience.
What, were you like super high while you watched it?
No.
Are you Aja Argento?
Yeah.
Yes. That's been my secret twist this whole time.
That would explain the accents, the impressions.
Look at this screenshot on Letterboxd. It's just him screaming with his eyes closed, and a guy's neck is geysering into the
That's
air.
the only good scene in this movie besides the giant fucking praying mantis. That scene
And,
gets half a star. The praying mantis gets another half a star.
Aja Argento
Baffling.
catching on fire was extremely sick. Or she was just
You know
doing
what?
the worst job acting.
I did not even realize that was her, and I was like, "What is going on with this Lucy?" Like,
Both
especially
times
when
I've
she
watched
goes
this-
vamped.
I've thought
And-
like whoever's playing, like her and Mina look exactly the same, and it drives me crazy.
I disagree.
Her and Abraham Van Helsing.
Mina's the one that's like her helper or whatever, right?
No, Mina's John's like the main character girl that
But like what,
Dracula's like in love with.
the lady that's like bathing her at one point.
Her best friend? Yeah, she's not her helper. She was her best
Look,
friend.
if someone's bathing you, they're your helper. Your parents when you're a
Okay.
kid, your helpers.
That's
What is a
fair.
best friend but a helper through life?
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I agree. Can't say I've bathed any of my best
B-
friends though. So like,
BT Dubs,
what-
we're talking about Argento's Dracula 3D from 2012, I think.
so why is it like nothing in this movie appeared to me like it would be 3D. Did they show
There's-
it in 3D?
There's a couple things, like, yeah, I think it was like filmed to be. See, this is the thing that's weird, is I don't know if this was like, because it looks like a fucking TV movie, like there's like commercial break spots, it seems.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. There's like maybe 3 times I think that I could see where they
The wolf
3D.
head at yeah. The only in hindsight, because I had to type in Argento to get this to come up. If you search Dracula 3D, like nothing was coming up for me. So I didn't even realize it had a 3D attached to it at all. And in hindsight, the only thing I could see would be like the very end when the smoke turns into a wolf head and it's like, "Rrr!" But like
extremely cool.
Know. Yeah.
Love a cool wolf.
It's pretty good. Very good CGI in this movie.
Terrible. I was shocked that this is from 2012, to be honest with you, but
not me. Actually, for some reason, I thought it was like 2002, but that would not make sense with him doing Masters of Horror and stuff around then. I think there's a reason this was the last movie he made in like 10 years, or for like 10 years.
Well,
sapped all the will out of him.
He's like
never again.
My best creation. I've retired.
Yeah, I've peaked it with cinema with this.
I think so.
Yeah.
What if he had just been waiting? He'd been waiting his whole career for the technology to be there for him to make a big mantis, and it finally happened, and he's going out on a high note. He's like, this is it. My life's work.
What a choice. I have to say, giant praying mantis is very unique. I've seen a lot of Dracula movies in my life, and can't say I've ever seen him tied to a praying mantis. So like,
very shocking.
It says
prior
to the production of the film, Argento had wanted to film a version of Dracula, but he could not find a way into it. With the advances in 3D technology, Argento revisited the idea that he felt he could offer a fresh take on the story in 3D. What the fuck did he do? Other than
exactly the same as every other Dracula.
It's the blandest Dracula movie except for like 2 scenes. And that's Azia getting on fire and then Dracula killing a room full of people very badly.
Like, there's no way that the terrible CG is the part that's 3D, right? Like, the people on fire or, like, his wolf face, like, right? Like, it's just...
The flames leaping out at you.
There's moments where, like, people do weird things with items where they go, like, towards the camera, like, instead of, you know... Like, at some point, somebody's like, I think it's when, what's her name at the beginning? I think Tanya takes off the, like, cross necklace and she, like, hands it to the guy, and I think it's, like, towards the camera. I don't know, there's weird shit like that where I'm like, I guess this was in 3D, but, like, I think this might have been, like, a movie that just aired on TV. I don't know if this had, like, real screenings, because it was, like, through the IFC channel.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
It premiered at Cannes and then was released theatrically in France. It doesn't say anything about like in America or anything like that. Yeah,
hey, buddy.
Yeah, we know.
Long time.
We know.
I missed you.
You only like later era Argento. I get it. God damn. Yeah, this is bad. So I don't know what Katie's thinking.
Okay, here's
She's
what
fired.
I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking. I inherently, I think, am just endeared to any Dracula movie because I've literally seen probably 100, and I couldn't say that I hated any of them. I think the issue with this movie, aside from how weird the CG choices were, is that the script is bad. Like, the script is bad. And, like, listening to the people talk, and there's, like, a lot of... I'm going to say my thing. I think this movie is too long for itself. Because I think that it's, like, there's, like, certain things that happen that are extremely tedious. Like, we don't need a scene of Rutger Hauer checking into his fucking inn room and talking to the chambermaid or whatever the fuck. Like, there's just so much mundane stuff that could have been chopped out. But, like, overall, I thought it was, like, a very normal Dracula movie. And I liked the costumes a lot. I thought there was a lot of the set that was super cool, and I felt like a lot of the like terrible like gore effects were like extremely like made for TV. This movie felt like a made for TV movie. Maybe that's why I liked it.
But it's like for me at least, like it's bad made for TV. Like it's like a
it's
sci-fi.
No Man's Skeeto.
This is the thing. Is it looks like a Sci-Fi Channel movie, but it's not fun. Like
I don't think it looks like sci-fi to me.
I don't know. Like the CGI in it is like worse than most of the fucking like Sci-Fi Channel stuff we watch. But it's like, yeah, again, it's too long.
Yeah. I found the CG like inappropriately funny because like it happens at times when there's really no need for it.
Well, that's the thing. Is like I could get behind the shitty like first era PlayStation like wolf transformation, and like obviously like the praying mantis rocks because of how stupid it is. Like that shit I'm fine with, but there's stuff where it's just like the people moving or like Dracula turning from flies into a person, like stuff like that, and it's just like it looks so bad. And it's again like I know it's the one I always bring up, like Jurassic Park came out fucking almost a whole decade before this, or 2 decades before this. Like you can do better.
No.
And it's just I don't know, like it just it's also like I guess I know I hold Argento to like different standards just because of like how much I love, like I think his run from like Bird with the Crystal Plumage through Opera is like almost untouchable. It's like it's basically almost like a perfect run of like 10 movies or something. And then it's like by the time you get to this, I'm just like this is like this and like the Masters of Horror stuff like just don't feel like Argento movies. Like Trauma and Stendhal Syndrome and some of like even Mother of Tears with how like edgelordy and kind of Eli Rothish it feels like still feel like Argento movies, and like this just doesn't. Like this just feels like a dude getting a paycheck, which is a bummer because it's also like it's like I said, like this was like a thing he's wanted to do for a long time, but it just like I don't know, it feels so fucking like boring and bland. And
I agree with you in that I don't think it feels like an Argento movie, and I don't think it's like super much of a secret that like obviously like Argento and those kinds of movies are not my favorite. So when you picked this, I like really didn't know what to expect, except I was like, oh, if there's like a really extreme like crazy version of Dracula, like fine, sure, I'll it's probably fine. This just felt like a very normal movie to me, except for like the CG stuff. And to me, like obviously I haven't seen as many Argento movies as you, but like I don't feel like CG is really his thing.
It is once it becomes like more prominent in movies. Like Mother of Tears, his third, and like the third Mothers is like heavily relying on CG, and it's fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think maybe he just thought, that's not great. But like I don't know, this as like just taking it as just a regular Dracula movie, it is a very normal movie. Like I will say that if somebody didn't tell me that it was an Argento movie, there's like no way I ever would have known that. Except for like I don't know, some of the practical effects reminded me very much of like older Argento movies when like somebody's just getting like stabbed in the head with a shovel sideways. Like that seemed, I could see that, but like I would never watch this and be like, ooh, it feels like a Argento movie to me. You know what I mean? But I mean, I don't know. There was literally sick ass theremin music going through the entire movie, so I don't know what else you want.
Less Azia is what I want.
And again, I didn't even realize that was her. I just thought she was
a bad actress.
I don't know. Yeah. I was like, I mean, whatever. She is what she is.
All right, let's do the plot of this. I regret picking this movie.
Plot. It's
took me.
Dracula.
I started watching a little bit of it at home, and then I had to go to work, and then I had to watch it in like 4 different settings on like breaks. So it was just like, it just seemed like I was watching it for fucking 12 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that. Would I ever watch this movie again? Absolutely not. I still stand by my rating. I'm not surprised that I'm the only one that sort of liked it, though. Like, are you?
Yeah, kind of. It's got a 1.6 fucking average.
Well, sometimes it is. I don't know.
To be fair, I also just gave Batman and Robin 5 stars on Letterboxd this week, so.
Batman and Robin is a 5-star
that's a good
movie,
film.
so that's very, yeah.
I was like, fuck it, 5 stars. That's what this deserves. Like, this is the thing, is a bunch of these reviews are like, it's so campy, and it's like, it's not. It's like, I don't think people understand what camp is anymore, because they're like, also... Oh, was there something else that just came out recently where everyone was like, it's so campy, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I think people just like using that word.
Like, please go watch a John Waters movie to understand, like, campy and stuff. Like, because this is so... I think my big problem is, like, this is so... Other than I think, like, the giant praying mantis is so, like, by the books, generic Dracula story.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, we got the Francis Ford Coppola one, which is a banger and just weird and bright and crazy and like that rocks. And then you have like, you go to this and you're just like, okay, so I guess I just get to look at a bunch of like beige background while fucking the worst Dracula casting happens and Rutger Hauer doesn't show up for an hour and 30 minutes.
They should have had Rutger Hauer be Dracula.
That's what I'm saying.
I will say that the person who they picked for Dracula is probably like the blandish, like least standoutish. I don't know that I would say he's the worst, because I've seen some other guys that I'm just like, what? Why is he?
He's not like a bad actor per se, but he's just boring in this. Like, it's just a boring version of Dracula.
Yeah, I will say, like, I don't see how this is. It's just like one of those things that we always complain about, where people remake movies and it's the same movie. Like, this is Dracula. Like, it's Dracula. So I don't know. The movie. The reason I say that I am surprised it was in 2012 is because I felt like, kind of to like how you were saying with like the Francis Ford Coppola one, where it was like bright and the sets are crazy. I liked the sets in this one for like the opposite, because I love like period piece movies, like Jane Austen type stuff, and this had that feel to me, where it was just like really simple. I liked the castle. I liked the lighting that they did in the church, and it was like old timey feeling, and like I liked that about it. It kind of sort of felt more like you were watching a play, if that makes sense. But, CG.
I can see that.
But anyways, okay, so this movie starts immediately with some Sick Theremin intro music.
I like this movie starts immediately.
Yeah, well, and the music is like constant throughout the whole thing. It's like every time something happens, it's like, woo, woo, and I'm like, okay, not necessary, but sure. And it starts with, we get introduced to someone named Tanya
Harding.
Oh man,
Tanya
imagine
Harding.
that she just takes out Dracula by clubbing him in the knee.
What a film that would be.
Could you imagine if someone did Dracula to the I, Tanya like plot instead? Amazing. Why I would watch that. So basically, Tanya's mom is like, hey, you need to go shut the blinds and stuff because it's Walpurgis night. I don't know what that is, but
it's
seems bad.
Oh man, I just listened to like a podcast talk about this, and I just completely blanked on what it like is actually for. For some reason, I felt like it was like it's something in April, I believe. Let's see.
It is the eve of May Day, on which witches are held to ride to an important rendezvous. I don't even know what that means. Pagan celebrations of fertility and the coming of spring.
Right. Yeah, it's like I knew it was something kind of like March or April or May kind of time.
Well, in which case I'd be like, fuck no, I'm going out. But, well, I mean, she is, but like for different reasons. I would not be meeting a man. Anyway. So she's like, Merlin? Yeah, don't worry, Mom. I would be me and Merlin, yeah. Dance under the full moon. She's like, don't worry, Mom, I'll do it. And so her mom goes to bed. She puts on a cloak and leaves her house. Thought it was kind of odd that she hung the keys to her house on a key ring right outside the door. Seems unsafe, but all right.
That was the old-timey version of just hiding it under a rock.
I think so. She literally puts it like in the crook of the door, and I was like,
that nobody had glasses then,
Mom
so
gets murdered, but
nobody could see. So
yeah,
in Transylvania, everyone's a friend.
In Passburg. What the fuck is Passburg? That's like what they were saying that the name of the town was.
Have either of you read the actual book?
I have, but I was in high school, so it's been many a year.
I was just curious. I was curious if this was like, a more accurate book version than like the Coppola.
Yeah, Coppola left out the giant praying mantis, if I recall. So yeah. I would say this is more accurate.
Well, that's like I was just curious. I wondered if like this followed like a more structured version because of like making like, how like there's like some of those books that are considered classics, but like if you made a straight adaptation, it would just look boring on film, and that's kind of what anytime I watch this, I've always was curious if that was like the case, and that's why like Coppola's version is so like wild.
I mean,
just say I don't know.
I was gonna say like on this particular detail, I don't know. I don't remember it being. I don't think that this one is more true, but I'm not.
So they seem pretty similar.
Yeah.
To me, like, just they seem structurally just about the same. It's just I don't know.
A giant
Argento. Yeah, Argento waited to do it until he was in the decline of his career, and Coppola did it while he was still really good.
I'm sure Coppola also probably had like millions of more dollars than this did.
Absolutely.
Like, if you look at like the companies that like helped him produce this, it's like IFC channel and shit. So like, I give it like a little bit of slack because money. It's one of those things where he probably just found a town in like Budapest that looked, accurate enough that he could film in it, and like, but it's just again like, it's a real bummer like going from even like his like not great kind of later period stuff have that like colors and like I don't know this just doesn't. It's so fucking bland to look at.
There's a thing about the visuals that I like, and I'm not entirely sure it's intentional, and it's that it almost looks like a Western from the 60s.
Yeah, a little bit.
At times. And every time it looks like that, and I'm like, oh, hey, like, I dig this. If something fucking stupid happens on screen to take it away, whether it's bad CG or a super fake looking background that the humans like pop off of weirdly.
I think there's a good movie in here because like obviously the Dracula story can make a good movie, but it's just like it's another one of those movies that we've covered where like it seems like every actor just came to get like a paycheck. Like no one really emotes except for like Dracula a little bit in the scene when he's like killing everybody, but other than that, like Honestly, the only person that emotes the entire movie is like the weird fucking like dude that's like Tanya's slave person or whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just so boring.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, that's true.
John Saxon is Dracula. My pick.
That would fucking rock.
That would have been so good.
Okay. Okay, so we also see this guy who I called the woodsman. He is unfortunately gutting some sort of animal, and he hears a noise. He looks out his window and he sees Tanya walking through the woods, and it's all spooky. She goes into a barn where she is meeting her boyfriend, and they immediately start doing it. Of course, you can't have an Argento movie without boobs in the first 5 minutes. So there they are.
That's not true. I actually don't think there's any in Suspiria, despite it being a girls' school. I can't remember. That might be wrong. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't know.
He really doesn't. It's very strange because I feel like nudity doesn't become a big thing until like his daughter ends up in all of his movies.
Yeah, gross. Not great.
They also
surprisingly
have sex
Oh, no,
in like
yeah.
she's nude like a couple times in this.
Yeah.
The sex scene in this beginning is so weird because they are in what seems like the most uncomfortable positioning possible.
Well, because it's like they're both naked, right? And they're in a barn and we can see their full bodies, but it's just like not quite right. Because obviously, they're acting, but it just looks very strange because she's sitting straight up because she's like spooked by the noises or whatever, and I don't know. It's just very strange looking.
It rocks. It's the best part of the movie besides the praying mantis.
He's like gripping her like side in a weird way too. I don't know. It's very weird.
I'm just convinced that anyone that ever stages sex scenes in movies has never actually had sex.
Makes sense.
The only ones that get a pass are like the weird 80s montages where there's like saxophone playing and like wind blowing through the house and it looks ridiculous.
Wind doesn't blow through your house?
No.
Like that?
Sex wind.
Ew, I don't like the implication of that. Okay, so basically there's like all this noises going on and she's spooked, but he's like, don't worry, baby. And so then afterwards, she's like, I'm scared. Like, can you walk me home? And he's just like, no, I'm married.
It's a good excuse.
It's terrible. He's like, no, I'm married. Someone will see us. Also, I gave you a cross for protection. And then she's just like, go fuck yourself. And she like rips the cross off and gives it back to him. And I was like, good for you. But then she stomps off. And he's just like,
bitches be
forget
crazy.
You. And I was like, you fucking dickhead. So I couldn't really tell what was going on at first. She's like walking through the woods and then she starts hearing a bird noise and she sees the woodsman and she's like, help me. And she's like starts running and he's just like standing there like, what? And then I was like, some kind of bird is chasing her. And then I was like, oh, it's an owl. Then the owl swoops towards the camera and turns into Dracula.
Very good.
I guess that could have been 3D.
It's
the bird.
Like, did Dracula turn into an owl in the book? Because isn't it like, shouldn't it be a bat?
So there are different stories where he is just a shapeshifter, so he could turn into other things. I haven't heard of an owl. I think commonly it's a wolf, which we do get.
Yeah,
a wolf or like bats or. I feel like I've seen other things. I just don't know if I've ever seen an owl outside of this movie.
Could be not that I recall, so I was confused. But the owl turns into Dracula, and then he bites Tanya. The next day, we meet Jonathan Harker, who is, a canon character, of course. And he gets off the train and has to take a horse into the woods to get to Dracula's castle, where he is chased by wolves that he later described as disappearing in and out of the trees. But we don't really see that happen. We see the wolves, and then we see no wolves. And he's like, what was that? And I was like, I don't know. You tell me. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's spooky. He makes it to town, and he goes into like a tavern inn type thing. And we notice that there's like garlic hanging everywhere. And there's a bunch of dudes in there that are like sort of whispering and making like secret plans for tonight. And the plan is that they're going to go dig up Tanya's body. And so they do that. And even though she's dead, she's beautiful.
Typical
and they're
Saturday.
like regular, yeah. And they're getting ready to, you know, probably stake her. And the woodsman shows up and is like, get away! And he like bites a guy's ear off. And then he kills Tanya's married boyfriend by hitting him in the head with a shovel that is sideways. And it was pretty cool. But then someone comes up and starts beating him with a stick, and he passes out.
Rude.
Same.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens.
Just at the side of a stick is enough to defeat me.
Someone coming at me with a stick, I'd just be like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm just going to fall and hope that they leave me alone. I ain't got time for this.
Yeah, it's fine.
Pretend you won.
Then it cuts to somebody, probably Dracula, slicing his arm open with his fingernail, which just seems unnecessarily painful. And he is collecting his blood into a cup for Tanya to drink. And she's like, delicious. Then Harker, the next day, goes to the mayor's office, mayor's house, where he meets Lucy and says that Mina, who is his wife, is going to come later that week to like meet up with them or whatever. And Lucy's just like, yay, she's my best friend. She's almost like a sister to me. And then they talk about Count Dracula. And like the whole reason that he is there in the first place is because Lucy wrote to him saying that Count Dracula needed a librarian for his castle. You know, just really normal stuff.
Some Jeff Bezos thinking from Dracula.
I mean, if somebody wants to hire me to be a librarian in their personal library, I'm down with that. I do have to say that Count Dracula's library is a little disappointing. It's a very small room. So I don't think he needs a librarian.
That's the job I want, just to be the librarian of somebody with like 30 books.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, all still here today.
He's like, how many books do you have? And then Count Dracula's like, that's your job.
To be fair, back then there was probably only like 30 books.
I mean, right?
Half of them were written by Dracula.
I would say half of them were all just like the Bible.
Right.
The Bible that Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Whatever that fucking book was called.
Ghost Dad.
Yeah, Ghost Dad. Ghost Shark.
Okay, we also we also see that the woodsman is going to be hung for killing Tanya's married boyfriend. Harker goes to the Count's house, which I thought was really funny because it's a castle. And it's not just his like cabin in the woods. Welcome to Dracula's cabin in the woods. And he goes down where dinner is laid out for him, and this is where he meets Tanya, and they just kind of like talk about nothing, and then she runs away. Dracula appears.
Explain every conversation in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, literally. That's why I said the script is not good. It's very tedious. I mean, it is what it is. And basically, Dracula says that Tanya is his niece for some reason. Don't know why that needs to be a thing. And that young people can be inappropriate. So just, ignore her, essentially. And then he asks about Mina. And it's just kind of in general spooky to Harker. He's like, oh, do you want to sit down for dinner? And the Count's like, I don't eat at night, or something stupid.
It's a good joke.
And then he does the laugh from the death toilet. So
stabs a man in the balls.
Yep.
That's what this movie needed, was the death toilet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dracula's death toilet. Get on it, guys, from Death Toilet. This is when they check out his library.
It would be an incredible, like, 5th movie in that franchise if just all of a sudden the toilet was Dracula.
Just has, like, a little cape.
Or
I'm gonna message him and be like, hey, we pitched an idea in the upcoming episode of Death Toilet Dracula.
The guy who's like in Death Toilet is Dracula.
No, I think the toilet has to be Dracula and he has to be Van Helsing.
Okay.
What if the toilet's Van Helsing?
The priest has to be Van Helsing. The toilet's Dracula.
No, I like him, Dracula, the toilet Van Helsing, like Kit said.
Because then Dracula has to go visit the toilet to die for some reason. He needs to go take a dump, and it turns out the toilet's Van Helsing.
Yeah.
Real quick.
And it's a cross instead of a switchblade.
Can we talk about Tanya's wig in this movie?
Oh my god, so bad. What's going on with that?
So fucking
Every
terrible.
wig.
Yeah. And like Harker's hair is fucking terrible. Like, I don't... It's like they were just like, here, just plop this on. Let's just shoot.
It's whatever Dario had in his closet.
Literally, yeah. I was confused. Maybe it was just because it was in the dark, but I didn't notice how bad Tanya's hair was until after she was a vampire.
Yeah, it's
and
real
I was
bad.
like, what's going on here with her? I don't know. It's terrible. She looks awful. As like they put on this like weird white like face powder also, and it just looks very strange.
This how much money do you think this movie grossed in the U.S. and Canada combined?
$2,500.
$8,139. Worldwide gross of $673,112 on a 5,600,000 euro budget, which I think is like close to 6 million in the U.S., something like that.
I don't understand how this movie costs that much.
Maybe he pocketed most of it. Yeah, right. Wow, I'm gobsmacked by that. That's insane. Okay, so this is when they check out the library. Harker notices that Dracula has no shadow and is just like, that's probably fine and normal.
Or doesn't he see his like reflection, or sees that he doesn't have like a reflection in like one of the bookcases or whatever? Like something like that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I don't know why I wrote no shadow.
Same
diff. Yeah, no shadow with the colors on a surface. There you go.
Got it.
That night, Tanya comes into Harker's room and it's just like, being sexy. And he like gets a cut on his hand and she's just like, oh, let me help you. And she's like sucking on it and being like weird. And then he like pushes her away and she leaves. It's very weird. Harker then is in the library reading books, and one of the books is about the history of Dracula and stuff.
It's a good book to own if you're Dracula.
A book about yourself? Yeah.
I hope it's like written by Dracula. Dracula.
I hope so. But it's in the third person.
Yeah.
Still.
It's just like, since his diary, he just like called it the history or whatever.
Actually, when Harker first started reading it, like he like, does that thing that happens in Dracula where like he reads like his diary or whatever, his personal diary. And then when he started reading the Dracula book, I thought it was Dracula's diary, and I thought it was going to be like, 1,000 years ago, I killed a bunch of people and put their heads on stakes, and I was like, sick, but it wasn't.
Better if it was all just like real emo, and it was just like, rebuked once again.
Sarah said she doesn't want to go out with me. I'm mad. Women, am I right, diary?
Just his fucking live journal.
Exactly. He's just reading a kind of, like a book about Dracula's military prowess, I guess. And then when he goes back to his room, he finds his picture that he had of Mina is in the fire, and Tanya shows up, and he's just like, "Did you do this?" And then she gets naked and is like, "Hey," and she bites him.
Dracula comes in and is like, "He's mine."
Well,
like the only time he emotes throughout the fucking movie.
And then Harker is like fucked up for a while, like convulsing in bed and rolling around and all that stuff. And he's like looking at himself in the mirror and his reflections being all weird and the sun's hurting him, and he's just like, typical transitioning into a vampire type stuff. Then Dracula appears to the woodsman in jail and frees him. Harker is like still freaking out. He's just walking around outside, and Dracula shows up. Oh, this is like the scene where like Dracula like scuttles up the side of the castle. It looks so bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I feel
I'd like to see a good Dracula scuttle, though. I think we deserve a good Dracula scuttle.
I'm telling you. Death Toilet 4 or Death Toilet 5.
The toilet scuttling.
Toilet.
Yeah.
Come on. Dracula's Death Toilet. Let's do it. He hisses, like vampires are wont to do. Harker's outside, like stumbling around and, not knowing what's going on, and then is attacked by a wolf that turns into Dracula. I assume
It looks pretty good.
It's.
Or wait, is this confusing. The transformation? I can't remember. When it's like
this is when it transforms like the wolf face into his face.
It just looks like a fucking cartoon.
It's very weird. And that's why I'm like, so the 3D part of it makes a little bit more sense to me if that was supposed to be 3D. But it just is like so fucking weird looking. And I was like, I actually like rewound it and watched it again because I was like, what is going on here? It's very weird. But then he like attacks him as Dracula. He bites him again. Then it cuts to Mina getting off the train, and Lucy picks her up in a buggy, and they just kind of talk about boys and stuff. And then when they get to Lucy's house, there's like a commotion in the town square because Tanya's mom is upset that Tanya is missing, or her death was like covered up or whatever. And the mayor's like, hey, make sure you don't go in the woods because that lady's daughter got killed by a wolf. Which is weird because Dracula attacked her as an owl. So, I don't know.
It was a wolf owl.
Yeah.
Very common around there.
There's also some cockroaches on the floor that the movie really wants us to care about because they're probably Dracula. The woodsman, then being freed from prison, goes to Tanya and is like, eat my queen, and is like her servant, and she feeds off of him. Then that night, some dude who later we find out his name is Zaron or something, kills Tanya's mom because she was going to go to another town and tell the cops in that town that like shady shit was going on. And Zaron does not want the cops in his town. Doesn't want not dirty cops in his town. So
what if it was Zordon from Power Rangers?
That's all I can think about. That's like one of the very few names for that show I know.
Just what a better film this would have been.
I mean,
just hear him
in
his warbly voice, Dracula.
Stop killing people. Let's see.
I'm in.
Okay.
I should watch Power Rangers.
You should.
I should have just watched that for 2 hours and then been like, yeah, Dracula. That was cool when he fought the putties.
I think every every sort of like character that's thousands of years old that has had like, you know, at least 5 adaptations should all have to be forced to do one as like Power Rangers.
Yes.
I'm into it. Okay. Dracula appears to Lucy. She immediately makes out with him. And he bites her. The next day, Mina is concerned because Lucy seems sick. She's like really pale. She doesn't want to eat anything. She doesn't want any biscuits and tea. And she's got a fever. And instead of going to the castle to meet with her husband now, Mina is going to stay and like help take care of her. Lucy's dad is looking at her, and Lucy has like a scarf around her neck, which seems pretty suspicious. But then when her dad demands to see what's behind the scarf, there's no bites. So weird, right?
Yeah, she just doesn't feel good. Fine.
That night, Mina dreams about seeing a wolf eating a girl in the woods, and the girl is her. Then when she wakes up, there's dirt on her feet as if she were in the woods.
Strange.
Very spooky. Yeah. The next day, Mina bathes Lucy, very normal for friends, I guess, and sees that she's got bite marks on the back of her knee.
I got some bad news for you about when Kit and I hung out this weekend.
Ooh!
Just bathing.
I know how you be. Getting bit on the back of your knee seems like it would be just very unpleasant.
The thing that like bothers me about all of these movies is I don't know why anybody turns down becoming a vampire, because it seems pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's the big flaw in all of these.
we had this conversation before. I'm down with it. I would be like, all right, why not? I will just play video games for the rest of my life.
I would
be
the guy constantly banging on Dracula's door, be like, please. And he would just constantly be like rebuking me, be like, no, thank you. You want it too much.
Like, no, dude, get away. Yeah. I don't know.
Like every other monster seems terrible. I don't want to be Wolfman. I don't want to be Frankenstein. I don't want to be a mummy. Maybe Creature from the Black Lagoon. He seems like he's got a pretty good life.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just chilling in the lagoon.
Just
you
being
know.
a creep.
Yeah.
The minute if I ever found out like vampires were a real thing, I would be so down.
I'd be like, let's do it.
Get me morbed. Let's go.
Oh, I'm beginning to morb.
The best vampire.
It's morbid time. I honestly, truly, yes.
Kit, you need to watch that movie.
Do I? Do I really?
Yeah. Just do it while it's free.
Yeah. It is a cinema at its finest. Yeah, so she finds the bite marks and she's just like, okay, fuck this. I'm going to go to the castle and get my husband back. And Lucy's like, okay, cool. Do it, girl. So Mina takes a horse and rides to the castle. On the way, she encounters the wolves. The horse throws her off and she is surrounded by wolves, and then she passes out. It's a really good defense mechanism if you're surrounded by wolves, is just pass out and do nothing, if you're wondering. She wakes up at the Count's castle, and she's just snooping around a little bit until Dracula shows up. Meanwhile, Tanya is asking the woodsman about Mina, and the woodsman is like, oh yeah, she's hot. She's totally hot. And Tanya is jealous and mad because she's in love with Dracula. So basically, Dracula tells Mina that Harker, her husband, is not there anymore. He went to the city to buy books, and then he starts hitting on her, and they're like touching each other's hands and whatever, and they almost kiss, and then she's just like, oh no, I gotta go. See ya, and she leaves. He lets her go. Then when she gets back into town, she finds out that Lucy has suddenly died, which seems very suspicious. She goes to the church to talk to the father about the dream she was having, where she was getting eaten by wolves. And she wants to talk to Tanya's mother because she's like, I don't know, maybe I can, that's what happened to her. Maybe I can, figure this out, which doesn't make any fucking sense. But he's just like, she left town too, coincidentally. And then she basically is just like, something weird's going on here, and I know that you know what's going on, so, tell me. And then he's just like, I'm not going to tell you, but someone else is coming to town, and he'll tell you. Which is like, okay, weird.
Santa Claus.
Santa Claus is coming. Okay, so now all of the townsmen are meeting to talk about defeating Dracula. And they're all basically just like, everyone's dying. I don't know. This guy seems shady. We should probably do something about it. Zordon is like, he's a nice guy. And is defending Dracula. And it's like, you don't want to be going against Dracula. He tariffs and whatnot, old-timey stuff. And as they're talking about backstabbing Dracula, essentially, a swarm of flies buzzes in and turns into Dracula.
This is legitimately the only good scene in this movie. And it's barely good. It kind of looks like shit too, but at least something's happening.
Yeah, it's the flies start slowly throughout their conversation, then all of a sudden a burst of flies comes in through the window, and it morphs into Dracula, and then he's got flies on his face, but the flies are his face, and then he's like, but when he showed up, I was like, wow, that's not suspicious at all.
Now every time I see flies, I'm just gonna assume it's Dracula. I'm gonna beg him to bite me.
He is a peeping Tom. Yeah. So then the guys are basically just like, he's like, are you guys gonna break our pact? You're supposed to just do whatever I say, and then I make stuff good. So what's up with that? And then they're just like, I don't know. Lots of people are dying, and it doesn't seem very cool. So, yeah, we don't want to hang out with you anymore. And Dracula is mad about it. And this is my favorite scene of the movie because he grows nails and then, slices the guy's neck open. And then he turns around and just slaps the dude's head off. And I don't know why, but anytime that this happens in a movie, it is my favorite thing. It is so fucking funny. He just, literally slaps the guy's head off.
It just sucks because, this scene could be great, but it just, the effect of, Dracula moving fast looks terrible.
Yeah, but, they shouldn't have done that.
The practical effects of, Argento's blood always looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So, that stuff looks good, the dude's head getting knocked off and it's just spurting blood everywhere is pretty good. But it's just the CGI aspects added into it just looks so bad that it takes it out of it.
Yeah, it's not great. He slaps that guy's head off and I was absolutely 2.5 stars.
Coming up, going through the dude's mouth.
Amazing.
Rules, but also looks terrible.
It's so bad. Good. So he slaps the guy's head off. His neck's a geyser. Then he, I don't know, some guy tries to run out and he throws a sword at him, which is pretty lame. And then he's basically just like, you're not gonna do that to me or whatever. And so he, mind controls and makes this guy turn the gun on him. And he, puts it underneath his chin and pulls the trigger. And, yeah, it's, slow-mo CGI bullet killing him. And it's the worst. But I was not expecting it. So... amazing. All right. Hard cut to Rutger Hauer being Van Helsing. Whenever I read the text, when you guys were texting about this movie, I didn't process anything about it, so I did not remember that he was in it. And then he showed up and I was like, what? So it gave me quite a start.
He's the best part.
Yeah, he shows up,
The
and
pilot
he's
from
talking to Mina.
Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal shows up.
I mean, just a star.
He's like, I wouldn't even say he's the best part, but it's just whenever he shows up, everything goes insane.
Yeah.
Like, he's very, very bland, but he's the hinge for the rest of the film to go fucking wild.
But he's just one of those actors that, like, when you see on screen, you're just like, oh, I like him. He's good. This is fun. You know, like, it's just good to see show up and stuff. So, like, it makes it at least a little better, especially because it's like, again, everyone else is, like, so fucking bland in this that even seeing Rutger Hauer show up and be kind of bland, you're like, oh, well, this is better.
Yeah, his boring is better than everyone else's boring.
It is very much felt to me like Rutger Hauer just, like, playing a normal person. You know what I mean?
Rutger Hauer was getting paid $200, so he just showed up and did $200 worth of work.
You know? Good. You know your value.
He walked in and was like, you've got 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to be here for a day. Get all my scenes done.
Got until I finish the sandwich.
What everybody doesn't know is Rutger Hauer is a very slow eater.
He just was chewing the whole time. It was a peanut butter.
They just dubbed all of his voice because it just did like a horse when you give it like Mr. Ed.
Exactly. I love that. So he shows up and he talks to Mina about, like, you know, I don't know what's going on. And that night he goes to Lucy's grave, and Mina follows him there and is like, what are you doing here? They discover that Lucy's body is gone. And Mina is like, what did you do with her? Because, I don't know, you know, how she is. And then Lucy walks in carrying a dead child, and when she, like, walks in, Rutger Hauer hides, and Lucy is like, oh my god, Mina, great to see you here. Whoa, so cool. And Mina, I don't know, I keep getting their names mixed up. Mina is like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, you're supposed to be dead or whatever. And then Rutger Hauer just jumps out with, like, 2 sticks that he has made into a cross. And he like, leaps out at her. It's just like, ha ha! And then she kicks the sticks away and hits him into like the coffin or whatever. And then he takes a lantern and hits her with it. And she catches on fire and disintegrates. And it kind of lasts for a long time. And it doesn't look good. So I don't know.
That's just, you could just blanket, like we've said, the whole movie with doesn't look good.
Then the little girl is there, and they notice that she's been bit, and basically Van Helsing is like, you should probably leave right now. And Mina is like being kind of weird about it, but then she leaves, and then Van Helsing stakes her to kill her, and she's like, ah! You know, because she was a vampire. This is when Van Helsing decides to tell Mina about vampires, and there is a flashback of when he worked at the asylum in Halifax, which is like in the original Dracula where like Renfield's character is or whatever. So I guess it was just like a call to that or whatever. But he says he saw Dracula there, and that's how he knows that vampires are real and whatnot. Then Dracula sends Tanya to kill Van Helsing, and so she shows up in his room, but he just immediately stabs her, and she dies and turns to ash. This is like the most efficient Van Helsing I've ever seen. He just like immediately kills anybody that shows up.
Rutger Hauer to fuck around.
Yeah, he's like, this is it. You get one stab, and there we go. And so they're worried. This is arguably the best part of the movie, because Van Helsing tells Mina, like, you need to stay inside, like, you need to stay safe, and I'm gonna go like take care of this or whatever. And Lucy's dad is like, don't worry, I'll protect her. So he sits outside her room in a chair while she's sleeping. And then they start hearing noises. And for whatever reason, a giant, like, person-size, maybe bigger than a person-size, praying mantis, neon green praying mantis, comes walking up the stairs.
Perfect.
And walks towards him and just, like, stabs him with his little pincer and kills him.
I just like the idea of Argento being like, I've been waiting for the technology to catch up because I have this great idea for a Dracula movie, and it's just so he could do this fucking praying mantis.
I'm so confused by it because, like, why a praying mantis? Also,
why not?
Well, so in my mind, Dracula can already kill people without transforming, and he, like, transforms for transportation. So he, like, transforms into an owl or a wolf so he can, like, cover great distances or whatever. And then the flies or the beetles or whatever, so he can, like, listen in on other people's conversations. At one point, he's a rat also, which, again, to listen in on conversations. But all normal-sized animals. And so then when a person-sized praying mantis shows up, I'm like, what? What was the thought behind that?
Look cool.
Yeah,
like,
it looks cool.
I guess.
You know that's the image I'm using as, like, a teaser for our next episode when I post it on Instagram.
Yeah. I hope that you add that to your tattoos that you're getting.
If the problem is
Everyone
there's nothing
like,
to, like, make it, like,
that?
Distinctive, it'll just look like a praying mantis.
Put a Dracula cape on
I'm getting the
it
fucking
and
wolf.
some fangs.
The mid-wolf to face transformation.
Please. That would be actually pretty sick looking as a traditional
just
tattoo.
Do an entire leg sleeve of just Dracula 3D.
Dracula 3D. Oh man. Okay. Yeah. So Lucy's dad is killed by a giant praying mantis. And then he turns into Dracula and kidnaps Mina. Van Helsing goes to the father at the church for help, and the father pretends like he doesn't know who Van Helsing is for some reason, and it's very strange. And then when Van Helsing's like, okay, whatever, and he leaves, he is like, starts yelling at the top of his lungs. I think the father is, like, the worst person in this movie.
Yeah, he's not great.
He's like, oh, what? I do not know you. Evil! I'm like, what's going on here? He just starts yelling at him. Van Helsing, I'm going to just assume that Rutger Hauer, like, improv this scene. So he goes to, like, a blacksmith's, and he knocks on the door, and he's like, hey, open up. And then nobody opens it, so he, like, busts in with a rock. And I like to think that was his idea.
That's how he gets into every place he goes.
Yeah, he just breaks into it. So he gets in there, and he starts smelting himself some silver garlic-infused bullets. Sounds delicious. This is when Zordon shows up. And Van Helsing, he, like, comes in the door and lunges at Van Helsing, who immediately just pushes him into a wall, and he gets his eyeball poked out, and he's dead. Easy peasy. This is where the woodsman finds out that Tanya is dead and just wails on the floor, and it was very upsetting. Dracula tells Mina that he like puts her down on the bed, and she wakes up and she's like, what's going on? And he's just like, he just tells her that it's the anniversary of when his wife died of a mysterious illness. And then he reveals to Mina that he is Nosferatu. And she's like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm down with that.
That would have been my reaction.
I'd have been like, okay, sick. I mean, you didn't have to, like, kill all my friends, but actually, I guess he didn't. Actually, I guess Van Helsing was the one that killed everybody.
Yeah,
Anyway.
they were all cool vampires. Van Helsing's the real villain.
He is. He wouldn't let them just live their lives. They were just trying to vibe, you know? And he just was like, no. So, the father asked Jesus for the strength to be courageous and decides that he is going to help stop Dracula. And he finds Van Helsing in the woods and says he'll help. Then they have a little picnic for whatever reason. Van Helsing finds... Okay, so they finally get to Dracula's castle. They break into the basement or whatever, and this is where they find Harker in a coffin. And Van Helsing stakes him, because he sits up and hisses, and that's like the telltale sign. Then the woodsman shows up. Yeah, a slithery snake. Then the woodsman shows up and immediately kills the father, and then Van Helsing cuts his throat open. Dracula brings Mina to his wife's grave outside, and it's weird because she's like mummified on top of it or something. I wasn't really sure what was going on with this grave part. But he's basically just like, so I used your friend Lucy to lure you here because, by the way, you're the reincarnation of my dead wife. And she's like, I'm not, though. But that's totally fine. Like, I still want to hang out, so don't worry about it. And they kiss. And then he bites her. And then, right after she gets bitten, Van Helsing shows up and is like, hey, don't do that. But it's a little too late. They start fighting. Dracula and Van Helsing start fighting. They're like punching each other and throwing each other into tombstones and whatnot. Van Helsing has dropped his gun. And in the fight, Dracula's like mind control over Mina like goes away, I guess. So she like breaks out of the trance and is just like, what? No. And she picks up Van Helsing's gun and shoots Dracula somehow right in the heart. She's a good aim, I guess. And he conveniently rips off his shirt and jacket so that we can see that his body is turning all weird. It's like weird CGI skeleton, like goopy skeleton thing. And then he disintegrates. There's flies and whatnot, and then he turns into ash. Then Mina and Van Helsing say some stuff about how, like, she was like, oh, I didn't mean any of that stuff. Like, he just was, like, controlling me. And then Van Helsing was like, yeah, like, that's what it does. It's mind control. And she was like, I didn't really love him or anything, and he knows that. So that was kind of weird. And they were just like, whatever. And they walk off into the night. Then Dracula's ashes swirl up from the ground and turn into a wolf's head that goes, ooh, and comes at the screen. And then it's the end. And there's a really sick outro theme.
What a bad movie. I do like.
It's not good.
I do like when Tanya gets killed that she's supposed to get like stabbed in the heart, but it's like way under her rib cage.
Yeah,
it's just like right in her stomach.
Right through.
That's where her heart is.
That was
sank.
still her, I think. Yeah.
Vampires move their hearts around a lot, so you can't actually know where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay, there was a movie. Was it Bloodstone? What was that movie? Subspecies? Was that the one where they were like, Dracula's heart is moving around and maybe it's not in his chest anymore? Do you remember that?
I don't remember that at all.
That sounds right, but I don't remember anything in that movie. I watched all of them and they all kind of like blurred together.
Well, you're in luck because I just saw that the Subspecies sequel, Blood Rides, is coming out soon.
Yeah, great. The rest of those movies are pretty fucking boring, so I can only imagine what this one will be like, 20 years later or some shit.
seems perfect. I saw a still of Radu, and he's completely CG looking, so I can't imagine it's going to be bad.
Full Moon's done pretty great the last 2 decades making movies, so I can only imagine. All right, news.
Honestly, the only thing that I saw that wasn't just Hellraiser, this and that, whatever, was that HBO is doing the Penguin spinoff series, and Colin Farrell is supposed to still be playing the Penguin.
Oh yeah, that got announced a while ago.
Well, I haven't looked at news in 3 weeks or whatever, so it's news to me.
Austin Stoker died from assault on Precinct 13.
R.I.P.
Yeah. Played Ethan Bishop in that movie. It was very good. Good movie.
Yeah, the movie rocks.
I feel like there was a news story that I meant to try to remember, but it's been 2 weeks, so I don't.
Yeah.
All right. What Katie, did you watch anything this week?
I watched some stuff the week before that I ended up not being able to record, which was not really. I watched rewatched all of the Are You Afraid of the Dark TV series that is on Paramount Plus. It's not the whole thing, but I rewatched all of that, and then I finally watched the first reboot Are You Afraid of the Dark movie that they broke into multiple pieces, and it was pretty cute. I gave it a 3.5. It didn't super feel like an Are You Afraid of the Dark type thing to me, but there were a lot of people who were in the movie that played small roles in the TV show, which I thought was pretty fun. And overall I really liked it. I think it's pretty good if you have kids and you want to watch something that's spooky but not super scary. But I don't know. I just really didn't feel like Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I'm wondering if the issue for me is that the production was good, if that makes sense. Because part of again, I think it's just that shot for TV stuff. But the guy who plays the Top Hat Man or whatever, I didn't think that I had seen him in anything. His name is Rafael Casal. I really liked him, so I thought he was a good bad guy or whatever. And then I watched, the only other thing I watched, I guess, was Paranormal Activity Next of Kin.
I heard that was pretty fucking terrible.
Really bad. Super bad. We watched it literally just because we had seen all the other ones, and we were with Chris's friend Frank, who is the one that watches all the terrible horror movie type stuff with us, and it was really bad. But then also he was what else do you guys want to watch? And we almost watched Rings, and we're okay, yeah, we don't think we've seen this before. We started watching it, and that the guy, one of the Big Bang Theory guys, is in it, and as soon as he showed up, I was wait, we've seen this, and we watched it together. And then everything came flooding back, and we decided we were not going to be rewatching it because I remember it being super bad. And then the only other thing I watched was the new Hellraiser.
Let's we'll wait, because I think we all three watched it. We can talk about that after when we all talk, after we each do whatever shit we watch. We can talk about Hellraiser a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, Kit, what'd you watch?
I watched Deadstream, which I thought was pretty funny.
Is it?
Oh, that's on my watch list.
Is it I don't know. I want to watch it, but I also I don't like found footage, but I also I saw some people saying that the main guy is kind of insufferable, and it kind of just makes me not want to.
He's intentionally insufferable, but he plays it in a way that I thought was pretty funny.
I'll probably get to it at some
So
point, but I don't know. I'm not in a rush like I was with like kind of Hellraiser and other stuff. It just
yeah,
because I don't know. I can't deal with found
Yeah.
footage most of the time, but
I was pretty surprised by it. Some of the effects are not great, or like some of the makeup, but I mean, it's clearly hella low budget, and it was fun.
yeah, it seems like one of those movies where everybody is either really likes it or like really hates it.
I could easily see it kind of grating,
Yeah.
you know, but I don't know. I was on its wavelength. And I was into it. Which brings me to the next film, Rob Zombie's
I
The
bet.
Munsters. I thought it was okay. I was like pretty well enjoying it for the first hour, and like was really surprised I was enjoying it. And then the second hour kicked off, and I was like, oh my god, this does not need to be this fucking long. And a lot of the jokes in the back half fell flat. I don't know.
I
was just
I think that's
a lot.
My big problem with it is like again, it's too long, but it's also like
hour 20. I think I would have been like, that was surprisingly solid.
it's not really funny is like the problem I had with it. Like I felt like all of the humor just fell so flat.
It's very much like all dad jokes, you know?
Yeah.
The kind of shit you'd see in fucking 50s movies or whatever.
But like I'm
So
down with
some
that.
are hit,
but
some
I
are
don't know.
miss.
It's,
But
I found it like I don't know. I just found it so wildly like unfunny, and I think like if the jokes worked for me, I feel like I wouldn't have hated it as much as I did. But like an almost 2-hour movie where like none of it's funny, I was like, Jesus Christ.
yeah. I will say, really loved everything Richard Brake did. He seemed like he was having the best time, and him as the fucking vampire. That was the hardest I laughed in the movie.
He's
Especially a disco vampire. Disco vampire.
like he
made me
was
cackle.
the only good part of 31. So it's like
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense that he's really like the only like actual fun part of this too. Like
Yeah,
I don't
makes
know
sense.
I don't know what dude is doing with the Herman Munster voice. But like I hated it.
I liked him pretty well. I was surprised that I liked him
I
as
think
much
he
as I
has
did.
good like joke delivery because all of his jokes are supposed to be like corny.
Yeah.
So like he kind of works, but like his voice pick just sounds like Weird Al to me, and it just immediately takes me out every time he talks.
He had the physicality too.
Yeah.
Like, so I was really expecting to fucking hate him as Herman, and I was pleasantly surprised.
That was the thing is I feel like everyone outside of like Sherry is kind of fine in it. And then like
I think even her, I think the second half she kind of finds her groove as a fucking Lily.
Yeah.
But by that point it's it's too late. It's like, all right, well, now you're you kind of have fallen into Lily, but
now the movie's
I
ended.
don't care now. Yeah.
it's
like all the jokes are not funny now, and it's just kind of dragging.
It just like I wish it wasn't a prequel so that you could have had like the stuff with what's her I can't
Like Eddie.
yeah Eddie and then like I can't remember the regular human that's in it as like their like lives with them.
Oh yeah.
Like I don't know, I just like it's just so much of that movie was just baffling choices, and it's like it is one of those things where like a lot of the time I'm like I really don't want to like shit on Rob Zombie as much as I do, because like he's just doing what he wants to do and like that's cool, and like I'm glad he's kind of found this like niche where he's like it's like the same thing where like like I know a lot of people don't like Kevin Smith stuff, but Kevin Smith is just making the movies he wants to make. He's not bothering anybody and all that, but it's just like this thing where I also watch people act like Rob Zombie can do no wrong, and I'm like, but these aren't good. Like like there's like stuff into a lot of his movies that just I don't know are just so bad that it bothers me when people are like, "This is a masterpiece." Like I saw someone on Twitter say The Munsters was the best movie they've ever seen, and I felt like I was having a stroke.
That's everything now. I saw a review for Terrifier 2 today, where they're like, "I was so affected. I haven't eaten in 24 hours. It's incredible." Blah blah blah. Like, come on. Like, let's all be normal here for a minute, please.
It's
like, you can like the movie, but like,
I don't know if I was texting somebody about it this week, where like I was watching, like I forget, it was like one of those, like, it wasn't Bloody Disgusting, but it was one of those type of like blogs where they were talking. Sure. They like somebody did a review of Terrifier 2 where they were like, "This sucks," and then the exact next post was somebody who wrote an article about Terrifier 2 talking about how it was one of the great masterpieces of like modern times, and I was just like just fucking make a pick, like pick a lane here, like. It's like Decibel does that shit all the time, where they'll like have an article earlier in the magazine about like a band's new album coming out and how it's like this modern masterpiece, and then you get to the reviews and it's rated like 2 out of 10. Like a 6. Just like just come on. All right, what? Anything after Munsters?
Oh yeah, watched this excellent James Caan joint called Alien Nation. It's pretty goofy, but it's James Caan is a cop and he gets paired up with a alien detective played by Mandy Patinkin. And it's the tropey thing where James Caan is racist against the aliens, but then he learns to like them by being partnered with one of them or whatever. Very, very tropey, silly, but it's pretty good. Mandy Patinkin and James Caan play off each other really well.
Mandy Patinkin's somebody that like I don't think gets enough credit for how good they are in most things.
Agreed.
Was that it? Besides Hellraiser?
Oh, and then Mr. Harrigan's Phone, which was not good.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was gonna be.
It just like doesn't go anywhere. I'm just kind of like, all right, what is the point of this? And there isn't really one. And I watched it with Layla, and she's read the short story, and she's like, the short story is really good, and this just kind of doesn't do anything with it.
That's the only reason that I was like interested in it at all, is because I also really liked the short story. So I'll probably still watch it, but I wasn't. I don't know that I was expecting it to be great.
It's a good premise. And I really like Donald Sutherland as like crotchety old rich billionaire guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they don't do anything with it. It's just kind of there.
All right. I finished watching all the Wes Anderson movies. French Dispatch. It's amazing. It's so good. I then rewatched Dirty Work, Screwed, Airheads, and Wayne's World. And then for some reason I just fell down a rabbit hole of watching all the DC stuff on HBO Max. So I watched Aquaman for the first time, and I don't know what the fuck was going on in that movie, but Dolph Lundgren and Willem Dafoe acting together is great. But that movie is another one where it's entirely too long and kind of very tonally inconsistent and just weird choices throughout and very weird. I watched the Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin.
The perfect quadrilogy.
All bangers. Get rid of fucking Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, and the Batman Forever would be pretty great. I rewatched the Robert Pattinson Batman, and then the 66 Batman, and then the Nolan trilogy, which still not a fan of. And then Hellraiser. So let's talk about Hellraiser. Katie gave it the highest review out of the three of us I saw.
I think I did actually.
I thought.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, I thought yours was like 2.5 for some reason.
No, it was 3.5.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I knew there was like a half in there. I thought it was 2.5. Uh, yeah. I guess. What do you guys think? Since I'm gonna mostly shit on it. I mean, it's like I'll say, like starting out, it's probably the best one since like 3. But again, that's not
Supremely low bar.
not saying
but...
much.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good. There's a good amount of stuff that I really liked, but for every one of those things that I really liked, there was something where I was like, "Oh, that's kind of stupid." I really liked the additions to the Lament configuration lore and like, oh, there's multiple different phases of it or whatever, and it's kind of there's a grand prize that you get at the end. I thought that was cool, but at the same time, it's like, well, that kind of takes away from, it's just a person who is very greedy and has this one little box, and they're just doing this for themselves, and it turns them into like a super villain where they've got to murder like 10 people. So it's stuff like that where everything I like has some little drawback to it.
Yeah, that was...
Like, I like the Cenobite designs. The Cenobites look fucking cool, but they're also really like shiny, glossy, almost plasticky. It's very weird.
And like that was the thing is all the Cenobites I thought looked cool until the end when you see them like in the light, and I was like, oh, these prosthetics like Jamie Clayton's prosthetics on like her body look like really bad in the light because it's just shiny and plasticky instead of them making it sort of like if they would have made it look kind of like goopy or put some sort of like thing on it so it just looks a little more like fleshy.
Yeah, should specify it's not like shiny in like a fleshy wet way.
No,
it's like
it just looks like plastic.
It's like a clamshell case. It's very strange.
Katie.
I agree with what you said. The first like half of the movie I thought dragged a lot, and I was like, okay, I'm not really gonna like this because you're basically just dealing with like the main character who like doesn't have their shit together, and then everyone else is kind of just like always yelling at them, which I hate. And so I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna like this. So, like overall, I thought it was like extremely fine. Like I know I gave it 3 stars because like at the half, like once the Cenobites start showing up, I really liked it. Some of the CG was like a little strange, but overall, I liked it, and I liked the ending, like where, basically. I guess I don't know if this is a spoiler. I've seen like only the original Hellraiser, and it was so long ago that I don't really remember most of what happened.
We're doing Hell World on this podcast now.
So I've always wanted to go and rewatch them or whatever, and it's just one of those things for whatever reason I just like never have. So I don't really have like nostalgia for the series in general. So I feel like I don't really have much to compare it to. But I liked the ending where it was kind of just like, well, you got a bunch of people that you care about killed for no reason, and now you have to live with it. I'm like, okay, that's cool, because it's like not really a happy ending, right? Like she doesn't get fucked up in a cosmetic way, but like she was already fucked up, and now like, it's just like
I liked that. I don't know. I kind of torn on like that part where like I do like the idea where they're just like, okay, well your suffering's gonna be for the rest of your life. You're gonna have to deal with this. But I also kind of hated like I didn't like the way it was like handled throughout the movie. Like, I don't know, like so many of the fucking Hellraiser sequels are just like, well, here's this person that does drugs, so like no one's gonna believe when they say shit, and like almost all of them was just somebody that was doing drugs or a fucking cop as the main character, and it's like like I just we got to get away from this trope of like horror movies where it's just like this dumb drug user is the one that's like
bad stuff happens to
like the only one I feel that sort
that
of handled that kind of thing okay was like the Evil Dead remake, because it like it makes it so like when she's like, you know, going through withdrawals, they don't realize that she's actually possessed by like whatever the force is in it.
Right. I guess like the only thing I kind of didn't like about it is that like the way that they were getting her, also really weird choice to like make a prop of the box but then also have it be CG sometimes. I didn't care for that. I'm like, just make the fucking box. You know what I mean? There were so many times where like that her sacrificing people was like an accident that I feel like, I don't know, that was like kind of strange to me, because they did it with like 2 people where it was just like, whoops, now you're gonna get Cenobited. You know what I mean? Like that was weird to me. But I don't know, overall, like I thought it was like extremely fine. I liked all the Cenobite stuff. I do agree that like towards the end when you're seeing them a lot, it's not great, because also you have that one Cenobite that has like, I don't know, like the skin flap dome thing, who's just like walking around very slowly a lot, and I feel like it wasn't intimidating to me.
That's like
disagree.
Like,
want no part.
The thing is, like most of the
no.
all of the rest of them, the Cenobites usually just show up and are just kind of stand there as shit happens. So,
well, but I feel like they just showed her too much.
It's
like,
I think when they're in the dark, they all look great. It's just it's once they step out into like bright lights, and I'm just kind of like, oh, these don't look very good.
I'll say big thing that felt very silly in this regarding the Cenobites is whenever they just be like out in the open.
Oh, like where they're like
just feels very
walking around outside
weird
and shit.
Yeah, feels very weird and silly. Like, here are the Cenobites at a park. Like, like I don't know why it feels off, but.
Well, like the one where they were all standing, they were like walking around in the garden of like the guy's house. It was like almost as if they were like, okay, now like stand as if you're taking a band photo or whatever. Right. And they were all just like standing in random places, and I was like, what's going on here? I did like
what is this?
Like, yeah, I did like I don't know. I liked some of the stuff they did. I like the idea or like the feeling in these movies where it's like, you don't get away. Like they just show up. They walk out of the fucking ground, and there's like nothing that you can do once you've been stabbed. And I think that they like conveyed that well.
Well, unless you build a multi-million-dollar mansion with a cool little button.
With a weird fucking metal fence that won't let them come in for some reason.
I don't understand that, and I didn't know if like maybe they explained it and I just wasn't paying attention, because it's like I was like, did they just like watch 13 Ghosts and they were like, yeah, trap house situation? Because I was like, I don't understand why that stops them.
If they did, it was like a very brief throwaway line, and I didn't catch it. But I was paying attention. I don't remember anything about it, so
yeah. But I don't know. I do appreciate also the main character Riley being like not your typical main character where she's just like I don't know. I feel like maybe we're moving away from that trope, but I feel like she was like, for lack of a better term, she didn't wear like tight clothes. She wore like loose fitting clothes. She was like a little you know, I don't know, just like not your stereotypical like main character person. So I did like her, and I liked the way that she was like portrayed in the movie.
I feel like they desperately wanted
sense.
Natasha Lyonne and couldn't get her.
I mean, yes. Because then I didn't recognize the person playing them. So then I looked up a picture and I was like, the hair is not the hair at all. But yeah.
I loved Jamie Clayton in it. I think I actually kind of prefer her to Doug Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought she was great, and there's things they did in it where, like, I really liked that it's actually pins instead of, like, nails, like Doug Bradley had.
Yeah.
And there was a scene at some point where something, like, the way the light hits her, where her face, like, goes into shadow, but the pins glow, that I was like, that's
super
fucking
cool.
sick. I love that. And, like...
They all had, like, pearl-tipped pins, which I thought was a really cool, like, new thing.
I really liked her, and like the rest of the Cenobites were fine. There was no Butterball and no CD Cenobite, so like I don't know what we're doing. But like I don't know. The thing with these movies that I don't understand, that they can't get away from, is like every Hellraiser movie since like 2, every fucking person in it is so unlikable to me. Like, they never have anybody that I want to root for like you do with, like, Christy in the first one. And then it's like, I kept seeing people be like, oh my god, this one's so sexy and horny, and it's so sexless.
It's so not.
It's like...
No.
And, like, I don't know, I wanted, like... It's like they saw... Everyone saw the first one, and then just immediately did the opposite of, like, the sort of, like, queer BDSM sort of influence, and just made all of these so fucking like sexless, and I don't know, it's too long. Like, again, it's like it's so hard to make me interested in a horror movie that runs almost 2 hours. And it's like, again, like
there's no reason.
You could have cut the first 40 minutes of this movie down to like 15 and made a pretty solid Hellraiser sequel. But the first, like, 45 minutes drag so much, because it's like, I think you see the Cenobites, like, once when they take her brother. And, like, everything else is I mean, you don't necessarily, like, see them, but, like, you know, when he gets, like, taken in the park, it's, like, it's whatever. It's at least, like, a tease of them that, like, interrupts just people yelling at Riley for fucking 45 minutes. I felt like... the twist that you find out that, like, her boyfriend was working for this Voight dude felt very unneeded.
Yeah.
And then, like his character's so weird, and I have so many questions about why he gets dressed every morning with this fucking thing in his chest, because, like, I would just...
You're hiding in your house, guy.
Just be fucking nude. It would have made it way more disturbing if he was just, like, constantly nude, and, like...
He had one of them through his dick, too.
Like, how does he bathe with this shit on?
I don't think he does.
But he has to be, because he's had it for years, and he's completely clean and wearing a fucking suit jacket, and, like... I don't know. I would have... I feel like it would have been way more disturbing if he was just this gross, filthy dude with this fucking weird thing. Just moving his nerves around all the time.
The boyfriend thing was weird to me, too, because at first, whenever she was like... whenever Riley was like, hey, like, this crazy shit's happening, he was like, yeah, oh, I believe you, it's cool. And he was, like, really, really into believing her. And I was like, that's really weird, because that's not normal for him to be like, oh, yeah, crazy-looking people are coming out of the ground. Totally. Like, and so I was like, it's weird that he believes her. And then there's, like, the twist where he was like, I was setting you up all along. And I was like, okay. But then I think it's just to justify, like, why she would... sacrifice him, I guess. I don't know. I think you could have got rid of that and just had everyone else just get killed off by, like, the Cenobites, like the rest of the movies, where it's not like this weird thing where they had to have, like, been stabbed by the box or whatever. Because I feel like the Cenobites in a lot of the sequels just kind of, like, if you're in the room, like, you're fair
getting
game.
Fucked up. And, like...
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was confused by why, like, if Riley's the one doing the sacrificing and whatnot, like, why would, I don't remember his name, the guy with the chest guy,
Voight.
like, why would he, Voight, why is he the one that gets the reward, quote unquote reward? You know what I mean? Like, that didn't make sense to me.
He does, but he doesn't. Like, I guess he's gonna be a Cenobite if they continue it. I'm not sure, like, what the fuck was going on at the end of this.
That's what it looked
but
like.
Riley still got to make they were still gonna, like, offer Riley a choice.
Well,
and so
because Riley physically turned the box into, like, the fucking the Leviathan thing or whatever.
So I guess, like, he's not getting a gift. He just wanted to talk to them because he wanted a different gift.
It's just so strange to me that, like, he's ideally the bad guy of the movie, but also gets rewarded by becoming a fucking powerful Cenobite.
So, okay, here's my question about the Cenobite.
Yeah. Rich people keep winning.
Truly. Do they, like, I know that they show up and are, like, you know, kill people with chains, essentially, and, like, make people suffer. That was my complaint, is they just kept like, just fucking do something different than these fucking chains for once. Like, that's all they do in this movie. Do they feel like, are they, like, in a purgatory where whatever fucked up thing is like happening to them? Like, do they feel that constantly? Because
it's kind of seems like it fluctuates a bit from sequel to sequel, but it's essentially, it's like most of the movies deal with somebody trying to, he's like, kind of like with Voight in this, where he's experienced everything, so he's looking for something. You just gotta keep fucking pushing outward in, like, whatever pleasures you're looking for. And I feel like this is the first one that made it so it was like your pleasures weren't just strictly, like, sexual. Because, like, they say towards the end, like, his was looking for power. And, like, most of them, it's somebody that's just like, oh, I've, like, done every drug in the world, or I've fucked every possible way, so I need something else.
I need a new way to get my dick sucked.
So, like, it's usually shit
Give me
like
the chain.
And
give me the chain.
I don't know, this is the first one where it's like they kind of acknowledged that there was more to that kind of shit, which is why his was, like, power or whatever, but I don't necessarily think they did a great job. Like, if you're gonna make this movie 2 hours, I wish there would have been more lore into the Cenobites than just people yelling at Riley for, like, 45 minutes.
Yeah, because, like, in my case, where I don't remember anything about them other than, like, a surface level thing, I was, like, really confused about, or not confused, but, like, I had a lot of questions about the ending part where Voight becomes a Cenobite, because I'm like, is that actually a reward? Like, he is now going to experience, like, killing people, right? And, like, that's what he's looking for.
Well, the idea behind them, at least my understanding of it, is it's one of those things where it's like you're tortured to the point of ecstasy, where you eventually just, it becomes like ecstasy for you. Something.
He did
seem
to be enjoyed getting his skin ripped off.
That fine line between pain and agony.
Because it's like the Cenobites really seem to enjoy it, but then it's everyone else that ever has to go to it, like Uncle Frank and shit, seems to hate it. So
I miss my skin.
Seems bad to me.
I don't know. I think if you have Hulu, it's definitely worth watching, especially if you've seen all the rest of them, because I don't know. I had this thing too where I watched it a couple days after it came out, so I just kept seeing everyone talk about how fucking crazy the last 20 minutes were, and I was like, this is
not that crazy.
Pretty typical Hellraiser, but also kind of chaste for Hellraiser, so, like, I don't know. I'm always baffled by people, like, wherever, like, that just, like, I'm just always curious what other movies people are watching when they're just like, oh, like, when people were like, Pearl is so bloody, and I was like, it's pretty bloodless except for, like, a scene. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's absolutely worth it watching for like Jamie Clayton's performance at all. Like the voice rules. Like the way she looks is like until you see sort of like her in the light is pretty great. And even like the stuff in the light, it's not like a huge takeaway. It just kind of looks a little cheesy, but like she's great. All the rest of the Cenobites are pretty good too. Like it's just, again, like the problem with all the Hellraiser movies is the people in it are always. I kept seeing people be like, "Oh my god, the acting in this movie is so good," and I was just like, "Really?"
No, it's fine. I mean,
It's like
every other Hellraiser,
yeah.
even the best ones, the acting is like fine, save for one or two people.
I was very baffled by a lot of reactions to it, but I don't know, it's a Hellraiser sequel. You're like, if you've watched the rest of them, you know what you're getting into. It's gonna be like 10 to 15 minutes of like some cool shit surrounded by like an hour and a half of kind of boring stuff.
I'd like to see David Bruckner get to do a sequel to it, because there's stuff there. Like, even as someone who liked it, I think he could do something really fucking good. He's got the right style and like mindset for it. It felt kind of wonky. But I'd like to see what else he could do with it.
I want to see him do a sequel that's more along the lines of like 2, where a lot of it takes place like in hell or whatever, and like it's just like it's less
like Voight teasing her with
just less
her brother being trapped in hell or whatever,
less like real world shit. Because like I feel like a lot of like all of the movies, the stuff that takes place in the real world is always kind of like the shit I'm just like, I don't care about this. But it's like this shit in 2 where it's like Christy going into like hell world or fucking whatever. I forget if it's just hell or if they just call it like something else. I haven't watched it in a minute, but like I don't know. I really like all that stuff, and I think he would do pretty good because like a lot of the visuals when it's like shit like in like Cenobite world is pretty good. It's just anytime the Cenobites are in like the real world, I was kind of like, oh, I don't care for this.
Yeah.
But like again, Jamie Clayton's fucking killing it, and like I really want to see her come like do more stuff as Pinhead, because she's really good, and like it made a lot of dudes on the internet upset.
Yeah,
more of that.
Give Jamie Clayton a 8 or 9 movie run as Pinhead.
I saw the number that this was number 11, and like even though I've seen them all a couple times, it's just baffled me that they're up to 11. And like,
wow, I had no idea.
At least 8 of them are pretty garbage. Like a lot of the Hellraiser sequels have specifically been made to just keep the rights to the franchise and like whoever owns it. So like
and weren't written as Hellraiser sequels. They're just other movies that they slapped the Hellraiser name on.
I think that was a thing in this movie that was a problem, as apparently they've been trying to make this movie since like 2003 or some shit. Where like, you know, like they were trying to get Clive Barker to help, like, you know, whatever Clive Barker was involved with like doing a remake, and like movies that have that kind of sort of development going on never end up great. So like now that this is out, I would be really interested to see them, even if it's like, you know, just take the whole Riley shit out of it, just get new characters or whatever, but just bring back Bruckner and fucking, you know, the Cenobites.
Yeah, Cenobite cast.
And like I'd be interested to see where they have less time, they can kind of like not go through developmental hell and just do another sequel and see how it goes. But it's whatever. I knew, because at this point, like, I don't like Hellraiser sequel is kind of always probably not gonna do it for me, because like 1 and 2 were pretty perfect, and then I have a soft spot for Hellworld because it's extremely stupid. But almost all of the rest of them are like a solid 1.5 star at most. Like the last couple have been real bad. So the fact that this was remotely watchable, I will count as a win. But it's still kind of didn't totally work for me. All right, shout outs. Katie.
I'm going to shout out. Assuming maybe somebody already shouted this out last week, but the new City of Caterpillar album.
Oh yeah, I think I said something. Well, mine was like Bjork, and then I was like, oh, there was a bunch of new shit that came out, and I think I said something about it. It's real good.
I was like, I assumed somebody probably did, but that's my shout out.
It's so good.
Yeah.
What about you?
Caterpillar Town. Reverse
Town?
shout out. Moving. It's dog shit.
Pretty terrible.
I hate
it's
it.
The worst thing in the world, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Not a fan.
No.
I'm about to pack up the rest of my DVDs and all my records when we're done and get to taping.
Oh my god, it took me so goddamn long to pack up my movies when I moved to New Jersey.
Sucks.
I don't know what the hell have I been listening to or doing. I don't know. City Caterpillar as well.
Okay, great.
All right. Next week, I'm not saying just in case the guest drops out, so you'll see. You can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IHopeYouSufferPodcast. We got some bonus episodes coming up. You can buy merch at our storefront tier shop. Leave us a rating and review on iTunes and a rating on Spotify. You can follow us on Instagram at IHopeYouSufferPodcast. Follow Kit at Hidden Kitstery. And Kitrification of Blood. Follow Katie at Werewolfface, and you can join her Patreon at patreon.com/werewolfface. You can my other podcast named Cape Movie Club. I hope you turn into a giant praying mantis, but why?
Pretty good.
Can only hope.